Hello, everyone. This is Whitney Well from Star Heart Astrology. And today I am here to talk about the archetypal life path of Gemini risings. So in this video, I take a look at Gemini rising, not just from the perspective of what it means to have Gemini on the ascendant or Gemini in the first house, but what the implications are for the rest of your chart. Using a whole sign house system, we know that every Gemini rising is going to have Cancer in the second and Leo in the third, etc., in zodiacal order. And so we can look at that archetypal life path of what it means to be a Gemini rising from all of those different angles. And we can really kind of illuminate what that means in a deeper and more cohesive way. So this is a series of videos that I'm doing. And so if you're not a Gemini rising, I still encourage you to watch this if you are close to, if you care about Gemini risings, but you can find your rising sign videos in my Archetypal Life Path Rising Sign playlist. Okay, let's jump in. Okay, so if you are a Gemini rising, you have your ascendant somewhere in the sign of Gemini, and using a whole sign house system, that's going to make your entire first house ruled by the sign of Gemini. So, right, your physical characteristics, your self-concept, your kind of the fundamentals of your personality have a Gemini flavor. Gemini is social, it is cerebral, it is intellectual, it is playful, it is curious, it is non-committal. It's can be kind of combative for the sake of playfulness, depending on other factors of the chart. And there's a friendliness to it. But as with any of the air signs rising, any of the air signs, there's a friendliness, but the friendliness is almost impersonal. It's more of a personality trait than a relational thing necessarily. So that's one thing to know. As a Gemini rising, that means the ruler of your chart ruler, your patron saint, your ruling planet is Mercury, which means that Mercury transits are going to affect you more than they would the average person. And so what does everybody know about Mercury? That Mercury is always going retrograde. So Mercury going retrograde, at least 3, sometimes 4, because you'll get one kind of like split times a year, means that the ruler of your first house, this ruler of your kind of most basic sense of identity, goes retrograde all the time, which means that you're constantly reevaluating yourself, how you identify, how you think about things, the core ideas that define you, which is going to be really important for a Gemini rising, right? What we are is the thoughts that we have about ourselves and the stories we tell about ourselves as a Gemini rising. And with Mercury going retrograde 3 times a year, those fall into natural periods of reflection and reevaluation. So this is an identity that's kind of like this lifelong work of art, or these lifelong journals, or it's not necessarily visual art, although Gemini tends to be very creative visually as well. So there's this kind of ever-evolving feel to Gemini risings, and part of that is the ruler of your chart going retrograde. So that is one piece to know. Now, it also puts your angular houses 1, 4, 7, and 10 are all mutable. And so these are the 4 mutable signs. And what the mutable signs are known for is adaptability, for flexibility, for fluidity. They kind of move up and down. It's not so much about the cardinal signs need to take action and have a plan and keep things moving all the time, or the fixed signs needing to have really solid answers. The mutable signs, conversely, they want to live in between. They want to live in the flexibility. They don't want these hard labels. They don't, I think all of us in moments want to feel more defined and more secure, but that's really kind of goes against the nature. This is a life that is flexible, that is unfolding, that you will go through lots of things, and the things that might, the important things in terms of stability are going to be different for you because we have the fixed signs in the cadent houses. And so it's almost like the big things are fluid and the small things are the more secure parts. And I'll go deeper into what I mean by that. So that's Gemini in the first. We're going to look to Mercury to see how easy it is for you to be yourself. So, right, Mercury could be anywhere in the chart. It's not going to be more than one sign away from the sun in your chart, but Mercury is really what we're going to look to for the focus of your life. If it's in the first, congratulations to you. That's great. Mercury's joy is in the first, but for most people it won't be. And so we'll look to Mercury to see, okay, what is the primary arena of your life? What are you always going to be thinking about and focused on? And how is Mercury's condition? Is it in the sign of its rulership, the sign of its fall, detriment? Does it have hard aspects to Saturn, or does it have beautiful aspects to Jupiter? It kind of doesn't matter with Mercury because Mercury is the creative problem solver, walker between worlds. Mercury is all about our ability to transform ourselves or the world around us. So Mercury, right, you can hear the mutability within the idea of Mercury itself. It is transforming things. It is changing things. It is the trickster archetype. And so there can be a little bit of a trickster appearance to Gemini risings as well. People not being sure of your intentions, you not even being sure of your intentions, having them switch whatever catches your fancy. And other people can get really worked up about that, but it's part of your magic. Okay. Now, every Gemini rising will have Cancer ruling the second house. So that second house, that place of safety, that place of resources, ruled by the moon, a very emotional space, a very emotional relationship with your money and the things that make you feel safe and the physical objects that make you feel safe, right? How easy or difficult that's going to be is going to depend on where the moon is in your chart. But having the second house be this lunar space, the physical objects, the things that you have a deep emotional connection to, right? This is not, this is not you buying things because they're practical or holding on to them because they're practical. It's because you love them, because you feel this connection to them. So that is a very emotional relationship. And sometimes, right, you can even tell what your emotions are like based on, right? Are you feeling more insecure, more afraid, less sure of yourself in your life? Are you holding on to things? Or maybe you go through different periods of feeling happy and generous and you're sharing and you're kind of letting people in. But Cancer is a very insulated sign. So how you dole out resources is really going to depend on your emotional state and who feels like a safe person to you and who doesn't. Okay, we're going to have Leo in the third house, which I kind of love this. The third house being, among many other things, the house of communication. And Leo being there, right? There's a theater, there's a drama to communication, which you can see if you're a Gemini rising, you're gonna have that kind of a charisma to you. And so, right, this is part of that charisma, is having Leo in third. All of these kind of, all of the connections in your neighborhood, your daily life becomes this kind of epic place of adventure in this Leonine sense. The third house is also the place of siblings and kind of outer relationships. And so, depending on where your sun is and the kind of connection of your sun, you can have, this can be like a real space of joy, can be in those little daily connections, and a real sense that you kind of orient your life around. It doesn't have to be this huge epic 10th house space of what is your capital M mission and your like the big thing that you're doing with your life, right? With Pisces ruling that, that's a little bit nebulous. No, right? Often Leo in our charts can be this area that we orient, that we use as the center, as the organizing principle. And in the third house, it's about your daily routine, your daily connections. Kind of how you're organizing your life on a day-to-day basis. I think it can also be this place of teaching as well. And so I think Gemini risings can make really, really wonderful teachers, depending on the position of the sun. The fourth house being Virgo. Okay, so this is, depending on what's there, right? This is significant. This is the other house in your chart. That is the other sign that Mercury rules. So Mercury rules the first house and the fourth house, your identity, your home, your family, your history, your foundation, right? Those things are connected by virtue of having the same ruler. So wherever Mercury falls in your chart, it's speaking not only about the first house, but the fourth house. So identity and family history are tied together really strongly for Gemini risings. And that will continue in life, that the fourth house, your living space, continues to be definitional to you. And again, because it's ruled by Mercury and Mercury is going retrograde 3 times a year, it's also this place of reevaluation, whether that's redecorating or moving or just having a different relationship to it over time in terms of what do I need supported by my home and how does my home do that? It's this place of healing through organization, through setting things right, through having your physical space, your home or your room be an expression of who you are. And that way, hopefully it can serve as a refuge and a creative project. Okay, the fifth house, the place of fun, of creativity, of self-expression, of joy, of sex, of pleasure. And you've got lovely Libra there that is relational and creative, wants to set things in harmony, right? The creation of beauty can be a deep sense of joy, right? You've got creativity in the house of joy. Now, how this goes for you, again, will depend on Venus. So you find Venus in your chart and you start building those connections and start building that understanding. How supportive and fun that is. The sixth house being the house of illness, injury, all the stuff that you don't want to do, but you still have to do. Whether that be mental illness or physical injury or just the chores around your house. And it's ruled by Mars. So I think this is particularly tricky. I think all other things being equal, this I have found is one of the trickier things about being a Gemini rising is having Mars rule the sixth house because, right, Mars is our physicality. It's our ability to take action. It's our ability to make decisions. And so, right, an overeager Mars can have us impulsively doing things and getting injured. Or, right, an under functioning Mars can leave us kind of sickly. And so, right, the health of Mars and the placement of Mars is so important for the sixth house because we can really be a little bit accident prone with this placement, and definitely something that we need to take care of. And that's going to depend on where Mars is and what's in your sixth house. but definitely something to be aware of is that the stakes for injury, I think, are just a little bit higher when you're a Gemini rising. Okay, the 7th house, Sagittarius. Sag in the 7th. So if we are Gemini here in the 1st house with our self-concept of being these polyglot Renaissance people, trying out everything, sampling everything, learning how to tell the stories, having a million creative ideas, right? What are we calling to reflect us or to balance us out? But Sagittarius, which is looking not just for every answer, for all the answers, but for one answer. That's not mesmerized by the variety, but is looking for meaning, right? So in our relationships, we find meaning. In our partners, we might find Sagittarian folk that are really consumed with the courage of their convictions. And so we can kind of rest from the relentless questioning, the relentless creativity, the kind of madness of Gemini, balanced out by the, the arrow of Sagittarius, moving one direction, one path. So we might be asking for that consciously or subconsciously. The 8th house, we have Capricorn. This is a place of serious, hard work. Our interpersonal relationships will be a place of power, dynamics, of intention, of, right, living in our most mature selves is going to be these deeper, intimate spaces. And we might struggle with that, right? Again, when we have the polarity, we've got, oh no, what's mine feels almost like with Cancer that it's like part of your body. No, that's mine. And then with Capricorn in the 8th, that's understanding fairness and structure of power and what actually belongs to you and maybe what you might owe the other, right? The sense of, oh, I have this privilege in my life. And so it might be my duty, a very Capricornian word, to kind of give more or to provide more. And I transcend my emotional attachments and my fear of these things by growing that strong structure of Capricorn and making mature decisions about it, even if I don't feel so great. Aquarius in the 9th house, this is the strength of your ideals and your belief systems. This is having a journey that you go on with faith, with education, with building your idea of how the world works. And again, bringing that idealism and that, so all of the kind of harmony of Libra and all of the complexity of Gemini get kind of consecrated into the crystalline idealism of Aquarius in the 9th house. So really strongly held belief systems. Pisces in the 10th. I think for most people, this is not going to look like having one career or one solid sense of the one thing that you accomplished in your life. I think this looks very fluid. I think as you move through the world, you will become many different things. You will stick your toes in many different waters, and that the most important thing to move you from place to place will be your internal sense of what is calling you. I think that Gemini risings probably have some of the greatest potential for the sense of a calling. But there's also within Pisces this divine longing that is never requited. So it can also be, I think, at different times, depending on transits from Jupiter, can feel like, oh, I'll never find the thing. I'll never find the thing that I'm supposed to do. What am I supposed to do? And so I think that's there. If you're listening to this now, we've had Neptune in Pisces since 2011. We'll be there for another few years until maybe 2025. or 2026, I don't know, somewhere there. And so that has kind of diffused this sense. There's a spiritual aspect that it's bringing, but it's also creating kind of confusion. So I think when Neptune moves outside of the 10th house, we might be able to hear the call in a way that is more clear to us. Aries in the 11th. The 11th house is the place of friends, of alliances, of people who are on your team. And with Aries, your team is going to form around the sense of a shared mission. It's going to be around, what are we doing? How are we taking action? This very passionate thing. And it might be something that coalesces to go on, I'm going to grab these group of people and we're going to go on this specific hike and then we're all going to disband. Or, right, like I'm going to get connected to this group of people because we're all campaigning for the same political person. And then after the election is over, it disbands, right? Aries is not about having a solid group of friends for your whole life, right? It's mission driven. So yeah, connecting with people out of mutual passion and then letting go once the mission is over. Now, Taurus in the 12th, right? The 12th house being what is hidden from our consciousness, what we repress in ourselves, or just what we're unaware of. The place of madness and isolation, because the stuff that we won't look at can become monstrous and torturous. And I think with Taurus in the 12th, that is embodiment, right? We're Gemini rising in our minds, right? What's most real about us is cerebral. And sometimes what that can mean is that we're forgetting the body. And I don't mean to, I don't like the shame-based way that sounds, because I think it can also be like, it wasn't safe to be in our body. It wasn't safe to experience pleasure. It wasn't safe to really enter into the material world for whatever reason. And so that can be the parts of us that constantly blindside us, the needs of our body, the desires of our body, our physicality, right? If Taurus is pleasure, what does it mean to deny ourselves pleasure or to be unaware of what brings us pleasure? I think if you are a Gemini rising right now, the North Node eclipses in Taurus are awakening your 12th house and having a lot of psychological insights about your relationship with your own body is probably rocking your world right now. Okay. If you enjoyed this video, if it was helpful, please like it, subscribe to my channel. If you want to see more of this stuff, please share it with your Gemini rising friends. And if you want to look into what this means for your individual chart, head to my website and book a reading, and I would love to break that down for you. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.